Hi Bio20, welcome to the final part of Chapter 8, Circulatory System. This is all about blood types and immune disorders. We'll look at, first of all, how the blood typing works, and for that I will check out this screen where you can see that there are some antigens or proteins on red blood cells. And if you have type A blood, you have A-type antigen markers or protein markers on your red blood cells on all of them. If you have type B blood, you have a different type of protein on all of your red blood cells. If you have type AB blood, you have both of those. So there were the rounder A ones and pointier B ones, and so type AB blood has both types of antigen markers. If you have type O blood, you don't have any antigen markers. Now, this has to do with how compatibility works. When we look at these markers, if you, for example, have no markers because you're type O, all of these other blood types would be foreign to you, and you would make antibodies against A's and B's, the round ones and the B ones, because they would be foreign to you. Now, if you, on the other hand, are type AB and you have both possible types of antigen markers, you are okay with A's because you have those markers, you're okay with B's because you have those markers, and you'd be okay with getting O blood because they have no markers at all. So ABs are actually the universal recipients because they don't mind having the donation of any of these bloods, whereas type O, he is considered the universal donor, and that's because without any antibody or antigens markers on the surface of type O, it would be compatible for any of the other blood types to have the blood type O donated to them. And so yeah, I think you got the idea of how this works. So type A, you would be okay with type O blood or more type A. Type B would be okay with type B blood or O blood. And type AB would be okay with receiving all of them, all the different types. And of course, type O could only receive from O. So this is what the notes have said in the previous couple pages here. And another thing that is mentioned here is that if you were to mix incompatible blood types, what would happen is that they would clot or agglutinate, and they would basically your incompatibility will result in antibodies being made against that foreign type of blood, foreign type of protein, and they would clump together, which would look like this. So you get this clumping or agglutinating if they were not compatible. So this one that made anti-A antibodies was clumping because of type A being put in it. And so you can see if it was put in regular, A was put in A, it would be fine. And so if A was put into B or AB, it was not fine. It agglutinated. Okay, this is a picture, microscope picture of agglutinated red blood cells where they all clump together like that because of these antibodies that will stick them together. That's what antibodies do. It sticks foreign bodies together. So if your blood type recognizes that it's seeing an incompatible blood type, it will do this exact thing, clump it together, and it would look like that. All right. The Rh factor is yet another protein that has been first detected in rhesus monkeys, hence the name. But when we look at a blood cell, they found there's some other marker, another antigen that some people have. And so they call that one an Rh factor. So if you have it, you're positive. If you don't have that extra marker, you would be Rh negative. And so this just adds to a compatibility issue, because when we look at the blood types here, if you, for example, are a blood type O, but you are O positive and have the Rh factor, you are then not able to donate that blood to O negative, because you would be introducing a foreign antigen marker to that. So you do have to look at whether the blood type is compatible and whether the Rh factor is compatible. So if you are Rh negative, of course, you don't have a marker that would be an issue, but if you are positive, you certainly would. And 85% of Canadians are positive. So that's just another thing to look at in terms of what that blood can be donated to. You guys can check out how the percentages vary around the world and with different races. One thing that's a consideration when we talk about Rh is that sometimes mom can be carrying a baby that's Rh positive, and if she's got a baby that's Rh positive and she is Rh negative, so if mom is negative and in her belly is an Rh, so here's her sitting there with a baby that's Rh positive. The issue there is that there is no blood mixing in her first child, so there would be no way for her to be exposed to that positive and form any antibodies against it. However, once she delivers that baby, there could be blood mixing at the time of delivery. So at that point, her body will start making antibodies against Rh positive blood. And so the concern there is that if she carries a second baby in the future that is Rh positive, those little antibodies are so tiny, they can go from her bloodstream into the baby's bloodstream. They can pass through the placental barrier, which passes oxygen and nutrients. It doesn't pass her blood cells, but antibodies can go in there and start clumping a second child. So remember that was just because exposure to the Rh positive at the delivery of her first child. So that is something that is managed by checking with a blood test whether she's got a high antibody count for that, and that would give them the clue that she's making antibodies against Rh positive baby. And so if they know that, they can give some medication for that. If the baby's born with an attacked blood system because of those antibodies, and it wasn't detected, that would be called the hemolytic disease of the newborn, and can have some very, very serious results like brain damage and deafness and even death. So that's what this picture is explaining. So we can have exposure at first birth, antibodies will build up in the body, and if she has a second baby with still Rh positive, she could have her antibodies going in there and attacking it. It says here that RhoGAM is an injection that can be a treatment for hemolytic disease of the newborn, and that's the medication available. So last portion here, we're going to move on to immune system disorders and wrap up our unit here. We've just got a few to talk about, and basically if you've got an immune system like your killer T's or your antibodies that affect or attack your own healthy cells, that would be called an autoimmune disorder. And rheumatoid arthritis is one of those autoimmune disorders where your ligaments or tendons or bones are being attacked by your immune system. And it's a painful thing. Overactive immune system is generally the cause. Diabetes could be because of your immune system attacking the cells that make insulin. That's one of the possible causes. Lupus is one of those hard to pinpoint disorders because of so many different body organs being affected. So the pain and swelling in different parts of the body, rashes, eventually when they realize, that it is lupus and get it diagnosed, they have to treat it as the immune disorder that it is, with, again, your immune system attacking those tissues. Another one is MS. And again, your immune system is attacking the coating around neurons. So you guys have nerve cells that are, some of your nerve cells have this myelin sheath around the fatty material around the neurons, and that is helping the speed of nerve transmission so that the impulses go quicker. And if you've got an autoimmune disorder that's MS, basically your killer T's are attacking this myelin, this coating, and so then you have short circuits in your nervous system, pain, numbness, paralysis, all these kinds of things that could be eventual side effects of MS. The last one mentioned here is AIDS, and that is where a virus actually affects your immune cells. So instead of having your immune system fighting off, like soldiers fighting off your pathogens, the virus is growing inside of your white blood cells and destroying your white blood cells, so you don't have that immune system functioning, which is why AIDS is so tricky to treat, because you can't use your immune system for it because your immune system is getting attacked. There's also a little bit here on allergies, which are fairly common things that come and go. Sometimes the allergies show up. Sometimes you have seasonal allergies, and sometimes other years you don't, and it's kind of a strange thing. But sometimes when immune systems are low, allergies can show up. But for some reason, antibodies are formed against some kind of a trigger, and histamines are released, which swell up your blood vessels, and that can give you the runny nose, runny eyes, itchiness, and all those effects that allergies give. And so sometimes there's even delayed responses where you were exposed to something, and sometime later you get some side effects from it, a rash from it. Wrapping up here, asthma, also a fairly common condition where something that you inhale causes a histamine release, and you have a closing of the airways in the respiratory tract. So there could be spasms or wheezing or coughing or inflamed trachea or bronchi or bronchioles, and the person finds it very, very difficult to breathe, so they may give them an inhaler to carry in case this happens, and in there would be an anti-inflammatory drug to open up the airways. All right, couple of videos in the disorders section you can take a look at, as well a heart review that you guys can check out before you review with the review questions and head to the chapter tests.